Sawadee. Hi there, students. It's me again, your teacher Melvin. Today is Wednesday, and it's math time. So are you ready? Let's start this one. Last time, we've discussed about adding decimals. Can you still remember it? Okay, I hope you do. And this time, we are going to discuss subtracting decimals. So are you ready? Okay, let's watch this video.
Welcome to 5th grade math with Mr. J. And in this video, we are going to be covering subtracting decimals. Now, if you have the basics to subtraction down, like you know how to borrow and go through the process, subtracting decimals really isn't too bad. There's just a couple extra rules we need to keep in mind. Kind of like when we did adding decimals. It was very similar to just adding whole numbers. We just had a couple extra things to remember. So, this is the instructional video for subtracting decimals, where we will do the 4 problems on your screen together, and then we'll follow this up with the mastery check, where you will do 6 on your own to see if you have it down. So let's hop into number 1 here and go through the process of subtracting decimals. I highly suggest writing these out with me, going along with me. I think that will be more beneficial to you than just sitting there watching me. But either way, it's up to you. So our first thing we do when we subtract decimals is we line our decimals up like this. Once we have our decimals lined up, we see if we need any placeholder zeros. And in this problem, we don't. So you'll see what I mean if you don't when I mention the words placeholder zeros in the following problems. But number 1, we don't need any placeholder zeros. So line up our decimals, see if we need any placeholder zeros, and then all we need to do now is subtract. So 5 minus 2 is 3, 7 minus 6 is 1, and when we subtract decimals, just like adding decimals, we bring our decimals straight down, and then 9 minus 3 is 6. So our answer is 6 13/100ths. Now, we always check to see if our answer is reasonable or it makes sense. So we're going to use estimation to do that. Estimation and rounding. So I go back to my original problem, and 9 75/100ths, its closest whole number is 10. I rounded to 10. Minus 3 62/100ths, closest whole number would be 4. 10 minus 4 is 6. That is my estimate. And let's see if my answer is reasonable. Is it close to my estimate? Yes, they're very close. So I have a reasonable answer. Number 2. What was the first thing we do when we set up our subtracting decimals problem? Hopefully you thought to yourself, line up the decimals. So let's line up our decimals. Put our subtraction sign in there. Now in number 2, we do not need any placeholder zeros either. But this one's a little different than number 1 because we cannot do 3 minus 9, so we need to borrow in this one. So we take from the 2 and we get to 13 minus 9, which is 4. Bring our decimal straight down. Cannot do 1 minus 8. Don't put 7 there. 1 minus 8 is not 7. We need to borrow. So we get to 11 minus 8, which is 3, and then we just have a 0 over there, so 3 4/10. Let's round and use estimation to see if our answer makes sense here. So this would be round to 12, and 8 9/10 would round to 9. 12 minus 9 is 3, so our estimation is 3. Our answer makes sense. We have a reasonable answer. Number 3, first step, line up our decimals. Put our subtraction sign, our equal sign. Now this one is a problem where we will use a placeholder 0. Okay? See how we're a little offset here, and the bottom number has a 6 in the hundredths, and our top number doesn't have anything in the hundredths. I'll show you the number one mistake when it comes to subtracting decimals and why we need to make sure we put our placeholder zeros. You cannot just drop this 6. Okay? There is a placeholder 0 we put up here, and we know 0 minus 6 is not 6. So this is incorrect. Don't just drop that 6. I'm going to reline up here in the top right. I put my placeholder 0. 0 minus 6 is not 6. I need to borrow. I get a 10 here. 10 minus 6 is 4. 7 minus 7 is 0. Dot, dot, dot. Bring that decimal straight down. 7 minus 3 is 4. And 2 minus 1 is 1. And I get 14 and 4 hundredths. Let's see if that is a reasonable answer. We have 27 and 8 tenths, which would round to 28, minus 14, which gives us an estimate of 14. Is our answer close to 14? Yes, so we have a good answer there, a reasonable answer. Now this helps us. Maybe you accidentally write your problem down in a sloppy manner and you have the decimal right there in your answer. And you go back, do your rounding and estimation, and you see that your answer should be close to 14, but you got 1 and 404 thousandths. That's why you use estimation and you check to see if your answer is reasonable, because we got something that does not make sense for something around 28 minus 14. Okay, so check to see if your answer makes sense. And then number 4 here, this is a good one. This is my favorite because we run into one of the biggest questions I get the most here. So our first step is to line up our decimals, and we have a 15. Well, 15 wholes does not have a decimal. Well, actually, every number has a decimal. We just don't put them for whole numbers because it's not necessary. Think of $15. The decimal would come right after, right? Same thing for a whole number. Put the decimal right after the 15. Now, we're nice and lined up. It looks a little offset. It might look a little weird to you, and that's why we put our placeholder zeros here. You can't just drop the 32 down. So, this one requires a lot of borrowing. We can't do 0 minus 2. Can't borrow from a 0, so we have to borrow from the 5 over here. This turns to a 10. Well, we got to borrow 1 from that. So we get to 10 minus 2, which is 8. 9 minus 3 is 6. Dot, dot, dot. Bring that decimal straight down. Cannot do 4 minus 5, so we need to borrow again. And we get to 14 minus 5, which is 9. And we have 9 and 68 hundredths. Let's do some estimation here to see if this is realistic. So 15 is a whole number, so the closest number, obviously 15. And 5 and 32 hundredths rounds to 5. So we get to 15 minus 5, which is 10. And is our answer close to our estimate? 9 and 68 hundredths? Yes, we have a reasonable answer. So that is subtracting decimals for you and some example problems. Just remember, line up your decimal, use placeholder zeros if necessary, and correctly borrow and go through your subtraction process, and you got it down. So I will see you over at the mastery check to see if you have it down on your own. Oh, and by the way, I dropped the link to the mastery check in the description. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and let me know if there's any material you'd like me to cover in the comments. Until next time, peace.
Did you learn something on the video? Okay, to test your understanding, I will give you some worksheets at the end of this video. And I guess that's all for today, guys. Thank you for watching. See you again next time. But remember, stay safe and stay at home. Kop kon kap.